Morning, America. Today we will educate you on Rose curves. Now, a Rose curve has a basic formula: R equals A sine or cosine NT. Now, when we graph this, remember that A will always be your maximum. And N, if N is an even number, then you take it and you double it to N. Wow! No, if N is odd, you just leave it alone. It's too odd. It's just N.
So this is a rose curve, that's also a rose curve. This is also a rose curve, that's a rose curve, that's a rose curve, and that's also a rose curve. All these graphs over here. Now, when you learned earlier that R equals A sine NT, or R equals A cosine NT. So when N is even, the number of petals on a rose curve doubles. This one was odd, so it only stayed at 3 rose petals. Over here, there was an even N, so the rose curves doubled. It was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On the other side, there's also another 6 right there. So it doubled onto 12. This one also had an N of 2. So now it's doubled, 1, 2, 3, 4. It doubled in petals. That one's also odd, but that's a sine one. That was cosine, and this one was a 5, which since it was odd, it did not double. And this one was the same as this one, except switched around in area.
All right, America. Time to graph a rose curve. Now here's our equation. R equals 3 cosine 3 theta. Remember, that 3 is our maximum. Now we're going to use degrees of multiples of 15 all the way to 180. And we'll plug it into the theta. So let's start. You plug the 0 into theta, then you times this by 3. 3 times 0, 0. So you still use the 0. Cosine of 0 is 1. Then you take that 1, times it by 3. Put 3 right there. And that's the basics of plotting your points. Figuring out your points. And we'll fill in the rest right now. For 15, it'll be 45. 30, it turns into 90. 45 turns into 105. 60 turns into 180. 75 turns into some number. 90 turns into 270. 105 turns into 315. 120 turns into 360. 135 turns into etc. Now, let's graph this behemoth of a math equation. Starting off, 0 is 3. Let's count. 1, 2, 3. Oh my goodness. 15. 15's right here. 3 square root of 2 over 2. That is around here. Beautifully done. Next is 30. 30 is 0. 0 right here. negative 3 square root of 2 over 2. That means it's over here. Oh my goodness. 60, negative 3. Ooh. Somewhere around here. 75, negative 3 pi over 2. Well, right around here. 90 is 0, 0. 105, around here. 120, right here. 135, around here. 150 is 0. 165 is negative. So it's around here. 180 is negative 3. So it's around, whoa, right there. Now let's connect the dots. Do it with me, America. Let's go. Oh my goodness gracious. Wow. Look at that, America.
Alright, so this time our equation is r equals 4 times sine 2 theta. Alright, so theta right now is in degrees of 15 multitudes. It's from 0 to 180. And now we're going to figure out. So we plug it in. So theta equals 0. So 2 times 0 is 0. Sine of 0 is equal to 0. Times 4, 0. So it's 0. 15 degrees. We plug that in. 2 times 15, 30. 30 degrees. Sine of 30 degrees, that's like 1/2. Times 4, that's 2. Then we do 30 degrees. Plug that in. 2 times 30, that's 60. Sine of 60, square root 3 over 2 times 4, that becomes 2 square root 3. And that's pretty much the gist of it. Just do it for the rest of it. Then we get 4, 0, negative 2, negative 2 square root 3, negative 4, negative 2 square root 3, negative 2, 0. So I messed the numbers a bit, but it should be 0, 2, 2 square root 3, 4, 2 square root 3, 2, 0, negative 2, negative 2 square root 3, negative 4, negative 2 square root over 3, negative 2, and 0. So now we're going to graph this. But you got to remember, n is equal to 2 over here. So the number of petals there will be in the rose curve will double. So there'll be 4 petals right there. So let's graph. Alright, let's go. 0. At 0, we put it at 0 because that's what it is. At 15 degrees, which is around here, you put it over around here, too. Alright, so then at 30 degrees, it's 2 square root 3, and 2 square root 3 is about 3.5. So then we go to 30 degrees, and then we concentric circles. The concentric circles here count as 1. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 3.5. There we go. We do the same thing for the other ones. 5, 4, 60 degrees, 2 square root 3. So same thing over here. 75 is 2, 1, 2 right there. We got 90, 0, 105, negative 2. So when it's negative, you go in the direction you want to go in, which is 105 right here. But except when it's negative, you go back, like go this way instead of going that way. So 1, 2, right there, around there, negative 2. So then now we have 120 degrees. That's negative 2 square root 3. Go here. Then we go backwards again. We go like around 1, 2, 3, 3.5, around there. Alright, then we got 1/5, 135, and then negative 4. So 135, go like, 1, 2, 3, 4. There. 150, negative 2. Alright, negative 2 square root 3, so we go up here. 165. Yeah, -2 around there. 180, 0. So, as you can see, there's only 2 pedals right here. But so pretty much to graph a curve, you gotta go in order from where you started from 0 to 2. So you gotta go in order, like 0, 2, 2 square root 3, 4, 60 degrees to 75 degrees, and then back to 90 degrees. And then you follow it the same thing. You go 105, which is right there. You pretty much go in order. Here. Now, since your N over here was even to, it has before pedals. So pretty much what you do is you gotta reflect it the other way. And you fill in the rest and go like pretty much what this side is, except over here, and it would look something like this. That. Here, 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 here. And the graph looks like that. So pretty much you pretty much just fill in like the left side. Pretty much what you did on the right side, just flip it over to the other side. So it looks a little bit like that. What it really should look like is like this over here, but I was not a very good drawer, so it's supposed to look like that. It's sort of like it over here, and then back over here, you can see this one was only 3. The N was 3, so it wasn't odd. There was 3 pedals only, but for this one, N was 2, so it becomes 4 pedals because it doubles. There you go.